All right, everyone, welcome back into the NONA Sports Show. And as you can tell, a little different setup. Patrick and I are on the same side because on the other side, we have a very special guest. Because as of recording, right, as of today, is 1 month away from the USL 2 season kicking off once again. So we thought we need to make a special show, Patrick.
Of course.
With us today is Director of Operations of the USL 2 team, Dani Coragem.
Thanks
Dani,
for having me, Eddie.
how are you?
I'm good.
Tired from the weekend?
A little bit. The tournament always wears you out, but I think it's a good thing to come and talk to you guys about this. You know,
Good.
the switch is flipping towards USL for sure today when we go into the office. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, yes. You can kind of feel it in the air already. USL 2, the fourth season of NONA FC in USL 2, very close to kicking off. So I wanted to start with, of course, some people may not know what USL 2 is, what the league entails, just overall. So can you give us a little lowdown on the fourth division of US soccer?
Sure. So that's a good point. A lot of people don't understand what USL 2 is. A lot of people don't understand the difference between NONA FC and NONA Soccer Academy.
Exactly.
NONA FC is obviously the first team to the NONA Soccer Academy. NONA Soccer was founded in 2016. NONA FC a couple years later in 2022.
Right.
And we compete in the USL League 2, which is on the fourth tier of the US Soccer Pyramid alongside NPSL and some other semi-pro leagues, which is essentially what USL 2 is.
Right.
I think the big difference between USL 2 and some of the other semi-pro leagues that we have in the country is because it is within a professional organization, a professional ecosystem in the United Soccer League, the USL, who is a long-standing league in this country. Orlando City is one of the participants of USL in the past, and then you also have like giants of soccer in this country, like in the 11, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, NCFC, who left the championship, came back to the championship. So a lot of stuff over there. But USL League 2 also existed for a long time. As USL League 2 has only existed since 2018,
Right.
when they rebranded. But before it was the PDL, and it served kind of the same way the USL 2 does, as a big platform, mostly for college players, but also some people looking for contracts or that kind of stuff, kind of get back into, a pro deal or even maybe coming from overseas, right? So PDL worked from 1995, which is like 30 years ago, a long time, up until 2018 when they rebranded to USL 2, and they since had 4 seasons or 5, going into the seventh season.
That's right. Yeah.
But 2020, they actually didn't have it because of COVID, so got a little bit of that. But yeah, home for a lot of historic teams. A couple of them that have since left the USL 2 and gone pro. Most recently, we have Sarasota, who's going USL 1.
Yes. That's right.
Which is a big deal, especially because it's so close to us. We also have Des Moines, which has had a former U.S. men's national team play Open Cup for them recently. So again,
Such a question.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was so
That's
random.
huge. That's big. So again, a very rich, very rich league in history, in the roots of soccer in the country, and it's like for NONA FC to be part of that, and USL is really like an honor, and it's been a great ride so far. I think we've represented it pretty well.
I think so.
It's a good job at letting these smaller communities have that chance to see their own community kind of grow in that sense.
Yeah.
You're not professional yet, but you can make that happen. You see players, you can bring them in. You see them, like for us, we've have players now that are playing professionally in Championship League 1.
Yeah.
It's very exciting stuff. I love it.
Absolutely. Like you said, Charles All now playing at Pittsburgh. We have a few USL 1
Max
guys.
Broughton, also his teammate at Pittsburgh. So 2 former NONA guys.
There you go.
Playing together.
We're leaving our fingerprint now at the higher levels. Let's look at last season, Dani. A hugely exciting season from start to finish. Unbeaten at home. Just the one loss, of course. Unfortunate how it came away at our arch rivals. But still, when you look back at it, like how do you look back at it? Like, what are your emotions, your attitude looking back at the 2024 season?
I think there's really 2 ways that you can look at it, especially from the position that I was in. I mean, obviously you being part of that team last year, both of you, you kind of understand that my position and everything that our team does is kind of like not related to the most entertaining part of it, which is the field.
Yeah.
But as far as a team, I think that we had a good year. It was a year of change, a lot of change.
Lots of it.
New coach, new recruiting protocol. Like our prototype, or not prototype, but the type of players that we were bringing in.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Changed. In the past, it was mostly like older, former pros type of people. This year, I think we honed down into what the culture should really be, which is the college players, people that have been through the pathway, whether it's a NONA or somewhere else, because essentially that's what NONA FC is for. Right? It's a platform for our NONA kids to eventually return. So a lot of changes. No stadium, which was a big thing.
No stadium, Field 1.
Exactly. So a huge challenge, if you think about going from the setup that you have and the infrastructure there. And I think that we delivered a fantastic job as far as
we tried.
Well, I think we did great.
I mean, so.
Everybody that came as a guest team to us when we were hosting, liked it. There was no complaints. The league had no complaints. I think that to pop up a stadium, quote unquote, the way that we did.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
I think it makes it, it's a really big achievement. And then on the field, we did what we had to do. I think the splitting points with the Villages, splitting points with Braves. Is it's fair. If I told you before the season that we would get 4 out of 6 with Fleur de Lis and 3 out of 6 with Braves, I think that you're looking at a pretty okay season.
Absolutely.
But obviously the loss over there, being I think the biggest score, the biggest gap between in the rivalry. And also our first rodeo derby loss. I think that kind of
it hurt.
Stings a bit.
It did.
But it was a good season. I mean, when you lose a title based on goal differential.
Yeah.
But best offense ever, the most amount of goals scored. Great record as well. A lot of points. Go to playoffs again. So continue to be a successful team in the Southeast Division, which is essentially what we want to do, right? Is that we want to constantly be competing
that's the goal.
at our local market, because that's what it does, right? Again, NONA FC is a pathway, is the crown jewel for all the kids that wear orange. And I think that turns it into a successful season.
Absolutely. You touched on it. Florida Elite, it was dramatic when we went there. We kind of spoke, they're kind of a bogey team when we go there, but
very much so.
The fashion and the way we beat them. I mean, I think it was Charles All who came off the bench and with his first touch scored a goal.
A free throw, actually.
A free throw.
Simon goes in, scores a 2-1.
That's right.
I think somebody else gets a 3-1. I can't remember now. And then Charles caps it off with the 4th goal.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Just off the bench like that, it was like, whoa.
85th minute, we're tied 1-1. Actually, I think the 80th minute, we're winning 1-0.
It was late on. Late on. Then they get a scrappy goal.
Just get a foul. There's a free kick. They cross it in.
And it just bobbles around. And, okay, we're back to 1-1. But then, to win it that way was incredible. You spoke about the defensive solidity as well. We hadn't conceded an open play goal in the first, 5 or 4 or 5 games, I believe. It was crazy. We'd only conceded from free kicks or penalties. We have a major part of that coming back. Mason Lamb, of course, along with Christian Kraus, along with Paulo Alves. So we have a core from last season coming back. Mixed in with that freshness of the new guys coming in as well, should play in well for this season, shouldn't it?
I think so. You mentioned a good point. I think if you look at what our backline was up until that point, it was talking about Slade Starnes, which is
SMU now.
Huge. SMU.
Huge.
You're talking about a All-American guy, like a winner everywhere he's been.
Yeah.
Obviously Mason Lamb, not just a great player, but also like a great person. A personal friend of mine at this point. And one of the big losses I think we had last year once he left.
Huge.
But absolutely, you're looking at a very, very, very solid back line that we had last year, and to have some of those guys return, it's definitely a big deal. The open play goals definitely didn't come in the beginning of the season. I think if we had done a little bit of a better job with that once the changes kind of happened, but it's such a dynamic season. It's there's a lot of change, player change, and other stuff that happened in the background. You can't really, I think you can't really complain with your belly full. So
very true. We spoke about change. And I think change is one of the common aspects of USL 2. It's a sprint during the summer. It's not, it doesn't provide the stability of like a 9-month season at the pro level.
It's kind of like a gauntlet of games.
It is. It's not a marathon. It's quite literally a sprint.
It's like a free trial.
It really is.
Right.
You're just trying to get it in before the time runs out.
It leaves you wanting more at the end of the season.
For
You're
sure.
like, wait, it ended already? But this season, like you said, more change, especially at the coaching level. Of course, Bruno, we're promoting from within. We've spoken to Fabio about that. That's been one of his main goals. I'm sure it's the same with you.
Yeah, I think it's what our brand is.
Yeah.
Last year was a big year for that. It was a year where we could sit back and kind of like understand that we had to hone in into what our culture is and what the purpose of NONA FC is. Because the first 2 years, you're excited. It's something new. Obviously, you want to compete. You want to deliver. And it was huge for us at that time, based on everything the academy was going through, to win the Southeast Division our first year and to have that kind of push into the academy was huge. But then, we started to take a look at exactly what is it that we're doing here. And a lot of the challenges last year and the solutions that came with it kind of showed, hey, we can do this the way that we want to do it. It doesn't. We don't have to do it the way that other teams do it, or there's no blueprint for this. We can deliver it the way that we want to deliver. So we kind of itemize what's the most important thing, and exposing the people who have been with us and who deserve it. It's at the very top of that list. And Bruno is exactly that type of person. Somebody has been in NONA for years, understands the culture through and through, understands the importance of the pathway, right, for our kids, understands, even down to what Fabio wants, right? Because as an owner that's very hands-on into everything that happens, especially into what goes out to the public, I think it's important to have somebody that's aligned with that. Even with me, Bruno and I started as rec coaches at NONA. So this is a person that, sooner or later we start to kind of understand the way that things work together so that we don't have to go back and forth about things.
Right.
That's not to say that any of the previous coaches had issues. I think, Guy was still the most successful coach for NONA FC. And again, somebody that I'm happy to say is my friend today. Same thing with Dave. Great summers, great relationships were built.
It really was.
But obviously there's a difference when you're talking about somebody who, used to pick up cones and paint the fields with you, in 2019, 2020. But as far as the field, I think Bruno absolutely deserves it. Yeah. He's been doing a fantastic job with the teams he's had, with the USL Academy team. First year, narrowly missing off on the playoffs. And then very good shows every time he's gone to the USL Pathway Classic, or now USL Pathway Classic, which is coming up. And his team, actually, his 09 team's U16 was listed as the team to watch for the U16 bracket.
I saw that list you put on your story.
Exactly.
I was like, whoa.
So, and I think for USL Power Rank is like top 10. So you're talking about a guy that delivers when he's got the talent on his end. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we thought we would have, I guess maybe too early to say whether it's successful or not, but it's with recruiting. Obviously, Bruno being a youth coach for most of his career, he kind of poses the question, right? Does he know, and can he recruit? You're talking about coming from a guy that's considered one of the best recruiters in the nation, and Dave Jacobs. And you kind of ask that question. But I think he's done a fantastic job so far. Obviously, we've announced a couple guys that you guys know. Obviously, I'm privy to more names that are coming in, and I'm excited. I can't lie. I think the team will be very, very good. I think we have very good pieces returning. Of course. I think we have very, very needed pieces coming in in some areas that maybe we struggled in the past. So we'll see how the season unfolds. I don't want to jinx anybody, but I do see him working a lot, very hard for this opportunity, and I 100% think he deserves it.
I'm gonna follow you to the office after this to see if I can
take a sneak
see if I can see some names that haven't been. I know you wanted to talk about Asheville last season, so let's
of course
throw that onto the table.
Unfortunately, I think it's something that we can take. It's definitely a learning moment for everybody involved.
100%.
We go to the playoffs. You go to Asheville. Unfortunately, we lost 3-0, I believe.
4-0.
It was 4 at the end.
3-0 sounded nicer, but how do you take that experience? From the coach to the players to your role. How do you kind of take that with your head held high and be like, okay, how do we prevent that from happening the next year? What things have to change? Just like kind of all you touched on. How do we take those moments? Because that hurt. That was definitely a painful loss. Especially to lose in that manner. And it's a hard season because you lose guys kind of out of nowhere, right?
At the end of the season,
they're all gone. So
the
it's
team all of a sudden looks different.
Right. Oh, yeah. So how do you adapt to that? How do you think that things can change so that doesn't happen? It's a hard question.
Yeah, no, of course. It is a hard question, especially because, that's been our bottleneck every year. So for 4 years, we've made it out as one of the best teams in the division, and then unfortunately we fall in the first round. And I think if you look back at every elimination, they've all been dramatic.
Yeah.
You talk about like, for example, year 1 in Knoxville, we go against, I think, West Virginia United, known as the #1 seed in the South Conference. Right, and it's like a truckload of goals just don't go in. The ball just doesn't want to do it. And then we finally tie it. There's a whole situation with the free kick and an unfortunate commotion at the end. Nobody expected for that to happen. You go into year 2, a PK shootout against Dave Jacobs, 2 red cards, 10 PKs apiece, go down to your keeper. Again, harsh in a game that he saved the PK, had huge saves during the game. Right, so again, dramatic. And then you go into last year. With everything, we get there, we're preparing, and then the rain comes in.
Oh, my goodness.
We're not playing at the UNC Stadium anymore. Now we're going into a turf park, and you know what I mean? Now all those 2,000, 3,000 Asheville fans, they're not in the stands. They're inches away from you taking a throw in. You know what I mean? You got Braves and Sarasota playing at the field next to you, and it's going to overtime. So it's like...
Wow.
Everything just kind of there's no way to prepare for that.
Really
so when you ask me like what can we do to change it, I think the number one thing is like I think we've been looking for a couple of years, but at the same time, like how do you prepare for any of those
I guess
things?
you're right.
How do you prepare for losing your head coach halfway to the second half in a playoff game when Guy gets a red card, right? And then then Bruno, had at that point he was the one that stepped in, right? So again. How do you prepare for these things? You can't prepare for that. You can't prepare for your players making a wall behind the wall that happens to keep people on sides. Like these are things that happen in the moment of the game. But to answer your question, consistency. Yeah. You have to constantly be at that level. You know what I mean? It's very rare that a team shows up to a knockout stage and goes all the way for their first or second go around. Like you have to participate in the competition. You have to fail. You have to lose. You have to learn. So I think we're just collecting lessons at this point, collecting learning experiences, and not just on the field, but also, in the operation side as far as like, who do we travel with, and, for example, I think it's not ideal that I have to do social media when you go out of town for one of our biggest games. It's not ideal that Fabio, as a president, is the one taking pictures, but those are the limitations of our business, right? But learning and planning and that kind of stuff, I think just having more examples to kind of look back in is really the biggest thing. And at the end of the day, it's not like we lost in the national semifinals. Right. It's the first round. Like, we may go through and we're going to lose in the second. So there's a long road ahead. But I think that if we can be a little bit better every year, it just sets us up for the success. And I think we've been, honestly, as humbly as I can say, I think that we've improved every year based on the previous year. We've learned. We try new things. We've been pioneers in a lot of different things. And you mentioned about the community side on USL too, and I think that's huge. You can be a pro team without being pro. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with that.
I think it's all about how you deliver these things. It's about how you present your product, how you present your players, and how relationship you build with the fans and who comes into the game and who cares about the outcome of the game. Right? I think that all kind of packages into consistency. Like, you're only as good as you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So you kind of have to measure it from below. And
I like that. I like that mentality, especially to take into the fourth season, like we said. Let's zoom out a little bit. Your most memorable moment. NONA FC. It could be anything. It could be on the field. It could be off the field. It can be in the office. It can be in the car. What do you remember when I tell you NONA FC, like, out of the years so far?
I think that one's easy. All Lane Stadium to play the Tampa Bay Rowdies in Open Cup.
Wow. I wish I was there, man.
That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Goodness.
It was unreal. And
talk about being pro without.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
that's literally
the league gives to you. Personally, I think the biggest thing that NONA's ever done, 100%.
Yeah.
Not just the Tampa Bay Rowdies game, but the Open Cup run. Put 1,000 people at Austin against Deleon. Play with a man down, right? And then secure that go into the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Be received, hosted by such a historic team, a huge organization as far as the temporary soccer goes in Florida, right, and in the country. To be there and to experience that, and again, the result didn't go our way, but I think it was
It's something to be proud of for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you got to that point. It's almost like you've won everything already.
It wasn't a walkover either for the Rowdies.
And we had that one burns in the back of my head. We had a really good opportunity to open the score up as well. Unfortunately,
man.
like I said, it's just some things just don't
One
go
of
to
those
you.
things, yeah.
But it goes back to the playoff thing. We're never gonna beat the Rowdies if we're playing the Rowdies once every 10 years.
Right. Oh yeah.
You gotta play them every year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, so I think that's definitely one of the, and just some other stuff that came around all of that. You know, it's just it was important. It was an important thing for me personally, not even just a memory, but an important milestone in my professional life for sure. But definitely my favorite and most unforgettable NONA FC moment for sure.
So then let's zoom back in to last year. Of course, I've spoken with Christian, with Slade, with Ivan, with Richie, Alan. So that's 5 already. I think we agree. I think almost everyone agrees. Last season, what was your favorite moment?
I gotta say the home win against
right?
against Braves. Winning the rodeo derby that way.
Wow.
It was incredible.
That was
I don't think I'll ever forget it.
That was so much fun. It was so amazing how it all just came together at the end.
And talk about things like falling into place or not falling into place. In the broadcast trailer that we had, I had always had my computer on my lap, right? Bryson had never turned on his camera to record. But for that corner, I moved my Mac out of my way to make sure
something was. I told you it was going to happen.
Bryson starts recording. It's like it was in the air. It was meant to be.
It felt like it. It felt like it was just inevitable. I called it. I told you exactly what was going to happen. Watch for a free throw. And the ball lands.
The man of important goals, Simon Afrifa.
Oh my gosh!
It lands right in front of him. It was a bit rough in the middle for a second, but it goes in the net.
You saw the net bulge, and it's one of those moments. I don't think you had ever been in the trailer for any game, and you stopped by that day, I believe, and you watched the game with us a little bit.
I did. I watched part of it. I only left because we had to. Vicente had arrived with dinner, so I'm helping him unload, and we're bringing the boxes of subs into the parking lot, and then
it's like.
Corner, we stop, we're kind of like peeking, ball goes in, or like we're in the parking lot holding subs, going crazy, like yelling and celebrating, and
it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one of those.
It'll always stick with not just the club, but with us and with everyone at the stadium, with all those players. That game was just so, from start to finish.
I mean, if they won, they would have won.
They would have clinched
division.
They would have
right then and there in our field. I think that would have been. Because last year the previous year they had won the division against us over there, but against us. It was a beautiful game, 2-2 game. And then coming in from a season where they finally beat us, and then they're going into our place to win it. I think the energy, and then not just that, like if you talk about storylines, right?
Yeah.
For example, Jamon, Richie, Issa, all those guys, it was their last game. They weren't coming back. They're already returning to USF, right?
Yeah.
And Jamon had gotten a red card against Brevard the game prior.
And we had to.
So we reached out. So after the game, we were talking to the officials, and props to how they operate and everything. They explained the situation, and we were able to appeal the red card. Thankfully, the league was very understanding.
Rescinded it.
Yeah. Not just ours, but the other player involved in the situation, because they saw the tape and they deemed that was necessary, which I appreciate that. That transparency lacks in a lot of the pro.
Oh yeah, we see it all week in week out.
Let's not go down that.
So to come back from that, Jamon starts on the bench, goes in, and then has pretty much two assists, right? Because he assists the first goal.
It was.
And then he crosses the ball and leads into the
we'll give him the credit for that.
And then so that whole thing, his last game, they really wanted to play that game. They really wanted to stay, couldn't stay, and then now Jamon coming back as well with that.
He is coming back. He is coming back.
I mean? So I think again another storyline that you can look to analyze and say how special that moment really was,
to say the least. Let's look forward to 2025 to finish things off, Dani. Goals, aspirations, objectives for the club as a whole, for you personally, going into this 4th season, which I can't say enough because 4th season in USL 2, been there and done it. It's going to ramp up this year.
It is. I think we're leading up to, not just for this season, but for the future. I think it's getting bigger by the second.
Oh, yeah.
But, for 25, I think the club's goal is to continue to show that what we do here is unique. We have 4 academy players that are going to be part of the roster this year. It's the first time.
Yeah.
And it's huge. You talk about Pedro Nunes, who debuted as an academy player 2 years ago against Brevard's Corda PK, goes on, graduates, goes to college, is a NAIA national champion.
Dalton State, we've mentioned him on the show.
And then returns to play for NONA. You have Ansel, who is a person that puts on the jersey like no other. Right? He played USL Academy, captain of the USL Academy team. Now works in NONA as well, helps with the kids, coaches the younger kids. You know what I mean? So again, somebody that deserves that opportunity. Andre, who was part of that academy team, went on to Knox for a while.
Wow.
So now coming back to be part of this, I think you just have too many special people as part of it. So I think that's the number one goal. I think to be able to compete. Obviously, like we want to stay where we are and fight for that division title. I think that's what we've done every year. Whether we're going to win it or not may come down to a goal more or less. That doesn't diminish the work or the success, right?
Not at all.
Because Giannis said that in our interview. It was like, so if I don't win it every year, I'm a failure. So if you don't get a raise every year, you're a failure. So we don't need to win it to be successful. But I think that we need to compete. I think that on the field, that's the number one thing. Off the field, like I said, continue to build our identity and our purpose with those kids, with the returning players, with the new faces that come in, and continue to extend those ties into our community and make people understand that NONA FC is an extension of Lake Nona, of Orlando in general. You know, I think that's the number one thing. And I think for me personally is just to continue to give opportunity for people that want to be part of the family. Obviously, you know, we've seen with both of you being with the club now for more just than the summer, and then having the biggest intern team we've had
My goodness,
kind of ever.
I wanted to touch on that too, because that for me is the most important. Like whenever I tell people, whether it was you, probably the first one I talked to, or anyone at UCF, and it's an immediate yes. It's like they don't ask about pay, they don't ask about how many hours. It's just a yes because they want to be a part of it, and you know it comes off as a special project, and people get gravitate towards.
It's
that.
Contagious. It's
definitely really contagious. It really is, and so that's I think one of the most special things as well.
Yeah, it's definitely contagious. I think it's definitely what makes us stronger. You know what I mean? That's the first question. Maybe not the first, but the main question I ask whenever I'm interviewing is like, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Why is this going to be your priority? Because, whatever the reason is, it's okay. You may just not be a fit for us, and that's totally okay.
Right.
I don't need the most qualified people. I don't need, the biggest resume. But I need the people that are really going to take this opportunity and value like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Because that helps you more.
Of course.
If you're going to hold a camera, if you're going to commentate a game, if you're going to set up banners, it doesn't need to be special for it to work for me, But I want that to be valued to the people that are part of our community, because that's how it was for me. Whatever my story is at NONA, it didn't start because I wanted a job. It started because I wanted something more, right? So I think if I can replicate that for everybody else, I think I'll have a successful season. And then hopefully Bruno can win some games. And we can go to playoffs.
We can score some goals and
go to Chili's again.
With some more memories. But that's what it is. I think that's
sure.
the most important thing. Whether you're inside or outside, like these memories are what makes the program.
Absolutely.
Because you walk out of here as a player or as a staff and you say, somebody asks you, hey, I'm trying to apply to work in NONA. I'm thinking about playing there next season. Whatever the question is, you say, oh, yeah, absolutely go do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can never have that many bridges. I won't burn them. So I hope that, that everybody that comes through NONA kind of shares that same idea.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, just 1 month away from a very special season. Dani, thank you so much. I will let you get to the board meeting. I know it starts in just under half hour. A little, again, preview. So yeah, but stay tuned though, because on the way, not in person, but virtually, is another very special guest, so stay tuned.
Something new, something fresh, yeah, I'm super obsessed. Let me know when you done messing. A little that, a little this, then you put it to the test. It's all in the expression. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. And now I want it more. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. Okay, you got the floor, it's looking good. I kinda like that. I kinda really like that. It's looking good. I kinda like that. Come on, let's see some more. It's looking good. Keep it going, get it right. Not a trouble inside. You can't argue with perfection. Ooh, you working something up with a little bit of
All right, everyone, and just as promised, we have a second very special guest, Patrick, joining us on this 1 month away from USL 2 starting special. That's the name of this episode. Joining us now is former NONA FC striker Gunnar Studenhofft. Gunnar, my friend, good to see you. How are you?
To Edgar, well, I'm blessed and I'm thankful.
Absolutely, man. Good to have you on the show. Let's just get started, man. Huntsville, how's it going?
It's really well. The season is going off to a good start. We just got a 2-point from Charlotte this past weekend from Crown Legacy, so we're happy with that, and we're looking to get more points against Chicago next week.
Chicago next week. That's going to be a big one. We just saw how they sold out Soldier Field against Miami. I'm not sure if you saw that, so just huge. Let's go back. I love to ask this question first whenever I speak with athletes. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I tell you the word football?
A lot of running.
Of course.
How about on the field? How about from a player standpoint, from like a passionate standpoint?
Passionate standpoint, I would say, invigorating. I would use that synonym or adjective to describe it. It's something that you can't describe when you go on the field and you play, and outside the field when you're watching. It gives you a sense of, this excitement that, is really hard to find.
Absolutely.
And so, hi Gunnar. So I'm off camera. You can't see me, but I've talked to Edgar a lot about you. We've talked to each other about Nona and all that kind of stuff. So, for you coming down to Lake Nona, how did this opportunity come up, and what attracted you to want to play here for the summer?
Well, the coaches and the staff are amazing. Everything is professional down there. By far one of the best, coaching staffs I've ever, played with in a summer league. And they have amazing players, and they produce amazing players and talent. And the sun. The sun is
The sun.
Obviously, right?
Of course.
But Nona was a great experience. I'm so grateful I got to be a part of that organization, and honestly, I hope to come back and be a part of it in some sort of way.
Oh, that's always something we love to hear from past athletes, of course.
That is music to our ears, Gunnar.
Yeah.
I was talking with Alan just a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, if I can make it out to a game, it would be great. Same goes with you, man. Always invited to come down to Austin Tyndall and enjoy a USL 2 game if the schedule works out. I know you guys are so busy with all the traveling with MLS Next Pro. Again, I want to appreciate you and thank you. I know you just had a flight and you're with us now, so huge thanks to you. Let's continue talking about Nona. Of course, you only played 3 games with us, but you scored 4 goals in that span. What do you remember from this summer?
I remember just, meeting a bunch of great players. I shared the field with a lot of talent. I just remember just soaking it all in, soaking all the information in. I did have national team duty during that time, and I was with the Rapids at that point, so I had those obligations as well. But if it wasn't for Nona, I wouldn't be prepared for those opportunities with the level and the consistency and the practices and intensity Coach Dave had brought, and the staff was just encouraging. So it was just a great experience, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And so another kind of a hard question that sometimes we ask people, right?
Sure.
So, of course, you only stuck around for 3 games, and you were obviously very productive during that span of time. But Nona, they did make the playoffs after you left. We did unfortunately lose 4-0 to Asheville in that first round. But what do you think the season could have looked like had you stayed for the whole season? It's hard to predict. It's hard to tell, right? But how do you think you would have been with that partnership with Kraus up top as well?
Me and Kraus are cooking. I mean,
dude, it was scary good, man. Scary good.
Kraus is an amazing striker. I think if we were to stay together for the whole summer, we would have produced some great stuff. But unfortunately, things didn't work out like that. but I know he's coming back. I saw the
He's
news, so
coming back.
Yes.
He is.
yeah. So you have another great striker on your hands, and I have no doubt that you guys be pushing for a championship this season.
That's the goal, man. That's the goal. The fourth NONA FC season. We've been saying that repetitively over this episode. It's only a month away, man. It's coming so quick. But you alluded to it. You couldn't stay the whole season with us, unfortunately. But talk to us what you were up to in between that time when you left NONA. Am I right in saying you went straight to Colorado? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Colorado had brought me in for training during the season, last season. So I trained a little bit with the first and second team. And it was just to get used to the environment, get used to the next level, and just meet the staff. Um, Unfortunately, after that, I had national team duty, where we had to go to Turkey.
Wow. Turkey?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So it was a really good experience, and unfortunately, I couldn't arrive back in time for the season, but that was a lot of good things to experience during or after when I was with Nona.
I can
And
imagine.
that kind of leads me to like another question because that's
Yeah,
a
go
very
ahead.
unique like pathway, right, to get to where he is. And it's very, but it sounds like you've gone through a lot in such a short amount of time. But how do all these experiences now help you on the field? Has it made you a better player? Has it prepared you mentally to be stronger? Because you already know how it's like to deal with the travel, the wear and tear that all this brings. How do you feel about all that?
I mean, it brings another aspect of composure, and experience. It just helps you on the field to just have more confidence and know what you're doing, make the right intentions when you're playing football. You have more confidence in your abilities, and because the level at USL two is very high, it's players are going to be professionals. The players are in college, and you know, everyone knows that they push out professionals in that league. So it just prepares you for the next level.
That was a great segue, Patrick. Thank you for that. Because I wanted to talk about also your exposure. You've been exposed to international football, college football, MLS Next Pro, the MLS environment, period. USL 2. Have you noticed any major differences when we talk about those different levels? Or is it just kind of like, the ball is always round, the grass is always green? What have you noticed when you compare the different levels?
I mean, in terms of level, it's like the same amount of intensity I feel in terms
Right.
of ability, athletic players, and these players are, like I said, are going to be professionals. Like I would say, 5 out of the 22 that are on the field, 6 out of the 22 on the field are going to be pros, and they bring another aspect of intensity and awareness to the game. It just keeps you going faster and gets you better and I feel like, the level is intact.
100%. You also mentioned Cayman Islands. Now, I am so intrigued about this, man. I don't know about you, Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're the same. How is it, right, to get capped for the national team you represent? I mean, that feeling must be just out of this world.
Honor. It is a pleasure and it's a blessing to represent my country. Without the Cayman Islands, I wouldn't, be where I'm at. Obviously, we have a lot of improvement to do as a team, and that will come with the head coach now. We're looking to do a lot of expansion and major changes, and it's exciting. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. What would you say is your favorite moment so far with the camp?
I would say scoring my goal against Puerto Rico.
Wow. Congrats on that, by the way. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a great experience to do that in front of all those fans, and something I won't forget.
Absolutely. We look back at your college career and you moved around a lot, consistently looking for that top level. What did you learn most out of those college years? What has stuck with you the most now, playing with Huntsville and playing at the level you are at now?
I took it step by step. You can't climb a mountain in one day. So from each level, I took as much information as I could to keep going higher and higher and higher. So I just felt myself always going up, and the work ethic increasing learning and knowledge. And I think it came around at the perfect timing where I got that look in, I think it was 2023 by the Rapids 2024. I think that's when it all changed, and then Huntsville came in and gave me the real opportunity to go into the pros, and all of those experiences really just led to me being here now, and I'll always be very grateful for those experiences as well and those coaches along the way.
So that's a great segue to this next question. So obviously you're at Huntsville now, which is an amazing opportunity for any professional athlete, right?
Completely.
Tell us about your first goal. That first goal, what did you feel? What were the thoughts going through your head? Tell us everything.
Before you answer that question, Gunnar, I think if someone has never seen Gunnar play, all we have to do is show them that clip, and they will know exactly what you're about. What a great goal! Talk to us. What was going on in your head?
I said as soon as I'm in behind, that's it. It's wraps.
See ya.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure the goal is scored. That's my thing. So yeah, I have full confidence that when I'm 1v1 with a defender or if I'm in behind, it's one outcome.
100%. That's that killer instinct, isn't it? All the best strikers have it, and that's so apparent with you. Let's elaborate on Huntsville real quick. I mean, MLS Next Pro, man, it must be such a fantastic, experience and opportunity for you. What are your, of course, this season has started. You guys have played a few games. What would you say are your goals, either personally or team-wise, for the rest of this season?
My goal is just to help my team win games. Obviously score goals, and I know we're early into the season, but we're looking on the right track to doing that. We feel strong as a team. We're just taking it one game at a time, feeling out our opponents, and preparing properly like how we do. So yeah, that's my goal, is just to win the MLS Next, and do as best as we can or as I can to help the team.
Absolutely, 100%. And since you've already been there and done it, I have to ask you, for this next, new group of USL2 players, I mean, this season we, have a goal of bringing more players up from the academy, something NONA has never seen, finally have the opportunity to do that. So that's one of the major goals this season. What advice, if you were speaking to one of those new players, would you give to that, new group of USL2 players coming in for this season?
Embrace it and have fun. Don't shy away. Don't you hide. Be expressive. That's what the coaches want to see, and you're being called up for a reason. To that level. So just have full confidence in your ability. Take advice from the older players around you. I know Mason Lamb's gonna be there.
He's back.
Kraus. There's a few guys that are being called back from last year's group. Listen and always have your head down and work hard and trust your abilities.
Of course, and I would argue that USL2 it's a gauntlet of games. It's just end to end. It doesn't stop, right? Especially if you're there for the whole season. Yeah. But it's also a great platform, I feel, to kind of identify that upcoming talent that can make it to the professional level, because we've seen it time and time again. We've seen it with other guys, obviously now. So because of that experience, how important, just like how you said, to embrace it, how important, though, is it to make that a point, embrace this opportunity, because you could very well be the next professional signing for an MLS club or abroad. What else would you say to kind of emphasize that point? What do you have to do exactly to make sure that you don't lose your head a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, be excited about it. I know it's normal to feel nervous as a human being, because we all want to make it to that next level. And you never know who's watching, but you have that one. It just takes one game for someone to see you, and just be expressive. Like I said, it's all about trusting your abilities and playing and doing your part for the team and what helps the team, because the team is what makes you shine, not yourself. So it's about what can I do to help the team, and am I doing the things that I'm doing in my position correctly and efficiently and consistently.
Lovely stuff, Gunnar. Lovely stuff. We won't keep you for too long. Once again, just huge thanks to you, my friend, for making some time for us. We really do appreciate it. And also, just so you know, if you don't know already, we are cheering for you over at Huntsville. If we didn't have an MLS Next Pro club, we now do. Huntsville, all the best to you, my friend. And hope to see you soon here in NONA.
To see you guys soon too, and thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to reconnect with you guys, and I wish you guys all the best for this new season and upcoming season.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And for everyone watching, that's it for this episode of the NONA Sports Show. Patrick, we pulled it off. 2 guests in 1. Huge episode. And like we've said multiple times, 1 month away from USL 2 kicking off. Stay tuned for the podcast later this week and the show next week. But from Patrick, from Gunnar, from Dani in the first segment, from myself, that's it from NONA Studio. See you all in the next one.